Pooja, are we? Get Set Green is a podcast where we focus on innovative solutions in green business, sustainability, and environmental betterment. Each episode will have such change makers on the show. Today, we have with us Gokul Shekar, who is ESG and head of Climate in Carbon Collective Company, who also leads various projects related to implementing decarbonization goals, strategies, and to help understand organizations to achieve their objectives at different stages of offsetting and decarbonization journeys as well. So, floor is all yours, Gokul. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pooja, and a very warm welcome to my listeners. I'm glad to be here. Once again, my name is Gokul. I'm the head of ESG and climate change at the Carbon Collective Company. We at the Carbon Collective Company, we are not just at businesses of sustainability. We are in the business of making real impact on the world. We partner with businesses to help them to navigate through the complexities of climate change, ecosystems, and community well-being. Our mission is to turn the tide on climate change and pave the way for a brighter, greener future. But here's the kicker. We are not just about the talk. We are about action. We roll up our sleeves, dive deep into the nitty-gritty, and work side by side with our clients to make their decarbonization journeys as smooth and effective as possible. So if you're ready to join us in the fight against climate change and make a real difference in the world, then buckle up. We are about to embark on this inspiring journey together.
Then I would like to, go around, see this journey on this roller coaster of the conversation and have meaningful and insightful discussions, and also give some value addition to the listener who is listening, and also they should be in a position to understand an overview of ESG in India today, right, Gokul?
Correct.
Yes. So moving ahead, Gokul, now that you mentioned about Carbon Collective Company, I would like to know what was the main idea? How did all this get started? Can you please tell the story? What was it about, and how actually did you come along in this journey?
It's a great question. It's over a period of time when this all started with one phone call to me by my younger brother from Dubai. I was about to take another job in a different country, and I was about to leave. And I come from an exclusive sales and marketing background, right? And as I'm coming, there's this one fine day about 2 years ago, I get this phone call from my brother, and he said, "Hey, I know you made a decision to go somewhere, but I've got something to speak to you. Can I speak?" And then he pitched this whole idea about Carbon Collective. There are some life-changing moments when people go through, and there are some times.
Yes, certainly.
And you feel this is what it is. And the way my brother spoke about what his idea was and how it can change the world as we are doing what we need to do, that struck a chord for me, saying that, you know what, if this is something which we want to do, if you're going to make an impact on the world and help people and generations to move ahead. It's because what we're trying to do is not only save our generation, but our kids and our kids' futures. So that left a solid impact in me, and it touched me, and it was a new venture, a new avenue to look at, because we come from a business intelligence point of sector before, and we've done various sustainable conferences, sustainable meetings. So we kind of had an idea of what this industry would take, but to just jump into that and then get into the aspects of the decarbonization journey, it just got exciting. And in the last couple of years, we moved from where we are to different places. We've got an office in Bangalore. We've got an office in Dubai right now. We've got people from Asia working along with us, Asia, Middle East, working with us. And some great ideas are being put on. And we know that this is an industry which is going to stay, because as far as the population keeps growing, as far as companies like countries like India and other countries which are booming, climate change is always going to be a debatable topic. And now, like we spoke earlier, Pooja, it's time for action. And that's how Carbon Collective shaped up. And we took this. I took this as an opportunity, though my brother took this as a challenge. Now, as we go through this, we've found ourselves trying to understand various nitty-gritties of what is happening in climate change perspective, whether it's coming from decarbonization or whether it's carbon offsets, whether it's the ESG regulations. All of this is slowly coming into perspective. And we were in the Middle East market for the first year, and then we slowly started getting some inquiries from India, and that's where we then started looking at India as a market. And as we jumped into India, the things got more exciting. Now we know that there's so much going on in India with so much awareness, but there is with this awareness, we've understood one thing is people still don't have directions how to go about. And we thought that's where, as Carbon Collective, we come into place to put perspective to all the thoughts and followed by actions. And that's how the journey has been for us so far.
That's great. Quite an indeed, having exotic story where you came up with an idea and an opportunity as well. And you saw the need for the hour and you understood the whole market ideology, which is very relevant for sustainability aspect, and you started doing it. So, which is great, Gokul. And also, as the saying goes, stop talking and start doing.
Correct.
So now I would like to know, can you provide an overview of the current ESG landscape in India? And what are some of the key trends and developments you have observed in recent years?
Great. Pooja, diving into ESG scene in India feels like stepping into a bustling marketplace of sustainability. It's like everywhere you look, there is a buzz of transformation and progress. Indian companies are actually stepping up their sustainability game like never before. I must say, one big trend that's impossible for you to miss in this whole environmental sustainability drive is with issues like climate change and dwindling resources knocking on our door, companies are now started to take action. That means we are talking about cutting down carbon footprints, ramping up energy efficiency, and jumping on into the renewable energy bandwagon. Now, then there is also the social responsibility aspect. Companies are waking up to issues like diversity, labor rights, and community engagement, because it's not just about profits anymore. It's about empowering marginalized communities, smashing gender stereotypes, and giving back to society through education and healthcare initiatives. And Pooja, let's just not forget about governance here, because transparency, accountability, and ethical leadership are the new buzzwords. Companies are tightening up their governance structures thanks to stricter regulations and a lot more investor eyeballs scrutinizing their every move. But here's the thing, despite all this momentum, there is a whole aspect about reporting and ESG becoming increasingly relevant. Companies are now realizing that they need to adapt, but man, they're slow and sometimes very slow, especially when it comes to the exporting and dealing with regulation. It's like they're playing catch up. But here is the kicker. There is very little awareness about how to improve ESG parameters in a quantitative way, not just qualitative fluff. There is a huge gap in ESG solutions, and it's puzzling why that is. But here's the thing. Suppliers and clients are starting to demand ESG transparency. It's just not anymore a nice to have. It's becoming a mandate. So companies are scrambling to beef up their ESG and sustainability departments. It's just not the financial head or a secretary looking into this. It's slowly evolving into separate departments altogether. And this is where I see it so far.
That I think you gave an understanding of how the situation is currently looking like, how it is been developing. I think you are talking from that perspective. Then my next question would be to you, like, do you see any specific industries or sectors in India that have displayed the remarkable proactivity or integrating ESG principles into their operations, which creates a positive impact? Someone who is a pioneer, let's say, or any sector or any industry present in India, how do you see that?
When it comes to integrating ESG into business strategies in India, right? It's like navigating through a maze of challenges. There is a lack of standardized frameworks, which is a uphill battle for getting reliable data. And let's not forget the perception that sustainability initiatives are too expensive. Now, but there is a way because companies are tackling these challenges. They are spreading the word by getting everyone on board, from the top dogs in the boardroom to the newbies in the mailroom. They are investing in themselves, building up the know how, and teaming up with others to share their load. Now, picture this, right? You see the swanky boardrooms in India's corporate giants. Sustainability is no more a fancy word there. It's the lifeblood of their operations. Let's take Tata Group for an example. They're not just a bunch of companies under one roof. They're leading the charge in sustainable innovation, paving way for greener and more inclusive future. And then there is Infosys, not just another tech giant, but a true trailblazer in weaving sustainability into every bite of the digital wizardry. But it's not just the big guns which are making waves. Even companies like Mahindra and Mahindra, ITC, and Wipro are also stepping up to the plate, showing their commitment to ESG principles and embedding sustainability into their business DNA. Now, these companies prove that integrating ESG isn't just the right thing to do, but it is also the smart thing to do. It's about future proofing your business and staying ahead of the curve in today's ever changing world. And this is where I think companies are making some notable changes for us.
I think Gokul, you also mentioned that, right? Sustainability projects is not just a fancy word, anyhow, like today, if we speak about it. And also, if we see that from another angle, which is the finance part of it, like how much investments required for it or to carry out the projects. So, what is your, point of view to understand the influence of finance on sustainability projects, and also from an investor point of view, if we have to see, how would that look like?
Hey, investor demands is something which we are something that's extremely important because the investors are now looking into their ESG scores. If companies trying to invest into for example, if they're trying to invest into a company, one of the things, main criteria they are looking at is their ESG scores and what the company is actually doing with their ESG. Now, that also comes, right, because if you ask what are the main drivers that are forcing people to adopt ESG in Indian business, right? Then you're looking at you got a whole mix to consider because if you see about whether it comes to financials or not, the regulatory requirements play a very big part. Even before
yes,
SEBI
and we will come to that part again. Like this is also very important driver or influencer. Yes, yeah.
So let me try and say that. So the investor relationship is so important for us, right? And we've addressed that. Now, should we move to the drivers, the main drivers behind the ESG principles now?
Yes, I think yes. And how does this regulatory aspect influences these parameters?
Correct. Because Pooja, we need to understand one thing, right? ESG is just not like again and again, I'm going to tell this. It might sound monotonous, but that's what it is. It is just not a mere box to tick anymore, because there are regulatory requirements which play a big part in the entire ESG vertical itself. Even before SEBI has actually laid out those BRSR guidelines, companies which are exporting their services to dance to the tunes of the countries they are operating in, and now with CBAM in the mix, ESG has shot up to the priority list. And there are green bonds. And green bonds are just not financial instruments. They are considerations that can open doors to certain funding avenues, whether it's within the country or beyond. But it's not also about just about this. Investor pressures are very big here. Picture this. Big institutional investors like asset managers or pension funds are getting choosier where they put their money. They are eyeing up companies with solid ESG performance because they know it's not just about doing good, it's about securing long-term returns. But beyond the red tape and investor demands, there's something deeper driving the shift, a genuine commitment to sustainability. These companies are addressing environmental and social issues, and it's just not a moral obligation. It's the future. It's for future-proofing their businesses by integrating sustainability into their DNA. Now they are creating positive ripples that actually extend far beyond their balance sheets. So let me sum this up. It's a mix of legal nudges, investor nudges, and a good old genuine desire to make the world a better place. Like in every city in India, every corner tells a story. The story of ESG adoption is one of them being written at every step we take.
I think yes, and even I say this, as a conglomerate or cross-functional development. Why? Because today sustainability is not just specified to just one sector or just one department in the organizations. You have to involve sustainability aspects in all operations and your
Correct.
all the projects which you are taking up, irrespective of the industry or sector. So now
Correct.
that we are talking about industries, what role do you envision technology will play in terms of ESG in India?
You've asked a brilliant question because we need to first of all zoom into the future where technology is just not like another tool in our arsenal, right? Picture this: the AI-powered algorithms are the guardians of the planet, and we are deep diving into oceans of data to unearth precious nuggets of sustainability gold. And now there is blockchain, silently standing guard to ensure transparency and accountability in every nook and cranny of the supply chain. Now, sustainability isn't just a goal, it's a full blown revolution fueled by innovation. Now, one area where I think technology can really turbocharge ESG progress is through data analytics. Imagine companies having advanced data analytics platforms like Mighty Swords. They're trying to slice the data to uncover insights about their environmental impact, social footprint, and governance practices. Now, with the help of AI and machine learning, they can spot trends, patterns, and areas for improvement faster than you can say. Maybe the right term is green revolution. For instance, AI algorithms can actually sift through supply chain data, flagging potential risks like dodgy labor practices or environmental slip ups. So companies can swoop in and fix things before they become big headaches. And then there is blockchain. Now, blockchain can actually trace every step of the product's journey from raw material to finished goods. This means there are no more shady supply chain, just crystal clear transparency that helps companies to root out issues like forced labor or even deforestation. But wait, there's also more, right? There's digital platforms and communications technology, which plays a crucial role too. They are like these megaphones that the companies shout out from rooftops about their ESG efforts, rallying investors, customers, employees, and everyone in between. By opening about their sustainability journey, companies not only build trust, but also invite collaboration and accountability, turning ESG into a team sport. So yeah, technology is just not a sidekick in this game. It's a driving force behind this whole new era of sustainability. But we need to understand that technology keeps evolving. It's up to companies to harness these superpowers to pave way for a brighter and a greener future.
And now that how we say this blockchain and how it will create transparency among all the supply chains and OEMs involved in the manufacturing and industries. So how do you see, my point is like, I understand that it will help in transparency, but do you also see the authoritative point of view, the governance point of view? Because will the government be able to control the data in it? Of course, no. It is even, I think, even though it is a plus point that no one can change it, no one can tamper it, will it be a challenge in the coming days is my question. Like, how do you see that happening?
You see, one of the things that's where the mandatory and regulated markets play a big role. When we speak about ESG, also, right? There are certain parameters. You've got specific softwares which gives you X amount of parameters people need to follow what they need to. And there is guidelines. There's GRI, There is when you're working with other countries, there is ESRS and other frameworks which are put in place to make sure that these slip-ups don't happen. And there are external and internal audits which happen to make sure that we don't backtrack or sidetrack, or even chances of greenwashing is usually removed. That's why companies like us, or the consultants who come in, play a role in bridging this gap between ESG and the government aspect.
And Gokul, greenwashing is something which can become a threat in the coming days, because given the fact that the amount of information which will be coming out through various platforms, social medias, and even reports as well, how do we understand the credibility of the information we are getting? I understand, being an expert from the industry, you will have a good pair of eyes to understand which is relevant and which is not. But if I'm speaking from a point of a consumer who is looking at the various companies and the products which they are making, what will be your suggestion for people like me who would want to understand, or who don't want to be in that zone of being greenwashed?
Hey, you raised a decent point there. Greenwashing is indeed a significant concern in today's world, where sustainability is there, right? It's crucial to look beyond surface level claims and dwell into substances behind them. Like, A might be we need to scrutinize transparency. When I say scrutinize transparency, we need to look into detailed reports, disclosures, verifiable metrics that demonstrate the company's environmental, social, and governance performance. We can even look at accessing consistency. For example, greenwashing often involves inconsistent messaging or action that is actually contradicted stated to their sustainability goals.
Yes, I think this is the one point which is a very good takeaway that you exactly mentioned. Rather than saying the in the air, about talking just in air, you
Correct.
need to actually have a quantifiable action and as well as quantifiable plan for the coming years. I
Correct.
think this one is the one highlighting point if anyone has to compare, or one who has to make a judgment over which is relevant and which is not.
And if you see, Pooja, over a period of time, if you pay attention to the company's action and see if it aligns with their stated commitments over the time, you will know if there are any discrepancies, right? And there are trustworthy certifications available for reputable from reputable organizations, which can actually provide assurance for companies' sustainability practices. Right? There's LEED, there is Fair Trade, there is USDA, there's B Corp, which actually goes through rigorous evaluation processes, right? And another key aspect which we look when we speak about greenwashing is to evaluate the stakeholder engagement perspective, because genuine sustainability efforts involve meaningful engagement with stakeholders, which includes employees, customers, communities, and investors. Now, if companies are actively seeking feedback to incorporate stakeholder input into decision making, then it can demonstrate a commitment to listening and learning, and they're more likely to be more credible. But I think we can easily navigate through this complex landscape by distinguishing genuine efforts to drive positive change and mere greenwashing tactics.
Yes.
But ultimately, you need to know holding companies accountable for their actions and demanding transparency and integrity are essential steps to ensure that credibility of sustainable information is there all across.
Very well said. Very well said, Gokul. So now, what do you think will be the misconceptions or myths surrounding ESG, and particularly within, if we are speaking pertaining to Indian market, what are those prominent myths which we come across in India about ESG?
You might want to rephrase the question once more for me.
Sure. So my question was, are there any misconceptions or myths surrounding ESG that you would like to address, particularly within the Indian market?
There are a few. Let me. The one of the things which we can actually look at, right, is we need to know that first of all, there is a notion that ESG is nothing but a burden for businesses, a costly checkbox to tick off. But let me tell you, that couldn't be further from the truth. Some companies might see ESG practices as extra expenses, but research tells us a different stories. Companies that prioritize ESG often have come out to be top financially in the long run, because businesses can actually boost their reputation, manage risks better, attract investors, spark innovation. So in maybe another word, ESG is just not about being green. It's about being savvy and setting yourself up for success. But yeah, then there is myths that ESG is only for big fish in the pond, only the Fortune 500 types, and smaller players cannot afford, and they can actually, sit out on this one. Wrong again, wrong, absolutely wrong. ESG is for everyone from corporate giants to the mom and pop shops. Sure, SMEs may face their own set of challenges like tight budgets and limited know-how, but they've got to gain as much as from it by embracing sustainability. Because ESG isn't just a badge of honor for big guys, it's a game changer for businesses of all shapes and sizes, helping them to stand out, attract customers, and weather the storm of change.
Yes.
Pooja, but
And yeah.
let's not just forget this misconception that ESG
Mhm.
is all about saving trees and hugging dolphins. It's not. It's not. It is corporate social responsibility thrown in for good measure.
Mhm.
While environmental issues are a big part of the ESG puzzle, it is not the whole picture. ESG is a three-headed dragon,
Yes.
encompassing of environmental, social, and governance factors.
Governance. Yes. Yeah.
So we are talking about fair labor practices, human rights, diversity in boardrooms, and building strong ethical foundations. So ESG isn't just about saving the planet. It is about building the world for better for everyone. Now, that's what we need to do. Let's bust these myths wide open. Embrace ESG for what it truly is, and strategic imperative business in India.
Yes, and that's what, right? Like we need to have a fair balance between these three pillars of ESG. It's not like one pillar is getting the sole importance and other two are, given less importance in the ladder. Then that would create an imbalance in the structure of ESG. So as you mentioned, we also need to see how well you can manage or strategize your operations in such a way that you are having a balance among all the three pillars in your
Correct.
executions, right?
Correct.
Yeah, since we were also touching upon small scale industries, can you also mention what will be the challenges or barriers for small SMEs in India when they encounter during the processing of ESG implementation?
Sure. For small scale enterprises, right? The unique challenges are, first of all, limited resource. They might have typically limited financial and human resources, making it challenge to invest into sustainability initiatives because of the high upfront costs for adopting eco-friendly technologies. Second, I think maybe the lack of awareness and expertise, because many SMEs lack awareness in sustainability issues, which and they may not even have access to develop and implement effectively a sustainability strategy. And let's not speak about compliance burden. Compliance with environmental regulations and reporting requirements can be a task for SMEs, because they need to keep up with evolving regulations, ensuring compliance with ESG reporting standards. This can actually pose a significant challenge for these companies. But and then there is market competition. Then there is supply chain complexity. But we can address all these challenges as a multi-faced approach that includes targeted support by government agencies, industry associations, financial associations, and other stakeholders. Initiatives which are aimed at raising awareness, providing capacity building support for these SMEs, and facilitating access to financing. These are things which we can actually do for SMEs to overcome this barrier into sustainability. This is what I think.
Yeah, I think that's how you start building up, as even though if they are facing certain challenges as of now, currently, the kind of implementation which will be needed ahead in the coming years will become more stringent and stringent as the years passes by. So
Right.
it's also up to us how do we cope up and buckle up for the new coming challenges ahead of us, and it is also very much needed also. I think we had a very good discussion overall, understanding the ESG part of it and how it started and what is its relevance pertaining to India, and how does the technology look like in envisioning the new growth for new India in the coming decades. And we also spoke about like new the credibility of information which we get, and how do we understand and differentiate between greenwashing and what is the credibility of certifications such as GRI, ESR, ERSR, or even for India it is BRSR, LEED,
Right.
BCOP, etc. as you mentioned. I
Right.
think now we have completed an holistic point of view to approach ESG. Gokul, I think now I have my one last question to you, which would be, let's say a person who doesn't know anything, has no idea about ESG, and now if you have to summarize few things for him to understand, who is a nobody in this sustainability field, but even though you should understand it, then how would you tell him that?
Uh, Before I answer that question to you, I want us to go back a bit more. There's one topic which we still didn't address, which I think is imperative for us to go back and address. It's something which we discussed, but we spoke about what are the challenges and barriers, but we've not spoken into what are the current challenges or barriers Indian companies are facing while implementing ESG practices,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
that's where the real track is, right? When we are
I think
implementing.
yes. I think it's needed for us to talk about that as well. Then we can just push this question ahead, slight ahead, and address this part. Then
Yeah,
Gokul.
because I'm going to jump to this question of saying what actually is going to be the biggest barriers for Indian companies while encountering implementing these ESG practices. Now, first of all, when you go right, Pooja, you want to ask this question so it sounds like the thing, or do I just go with the answer?
I think I will go with the question, Gokul. Then
Okay, okay.
yes. So Gokul, can you please help us understand what are the few key challenges which Indian companies face while implementing ESG initiatives, standards, and reporting?
Great. Pooja, Indian companies aren't just actually racing against the clock here. They are navigating through a maze of regulation and frameworks. Amidst this chaos, right, there is some glimmer of hope, a vision for every company, whether it's big or small, to become a true champion in sustainability. Now, I'm sure that you guys are, most of them are aware that there are top 1,000 companies which are mandated or expected to give their ESG report as per the BRSR guidelines. Of course, they can also whip up reports based on GRI or ESRS, depending on who's knocking their door. And let's not forget about the top 150 companies having to provide ESG assurance, which is like a three-part audit on their existing reports. And next year, it's going to be 250, and then 500, and eventually 1,000 companies. Now, this may sound like a familiar territory, but the real magic lies here in the transition. Now, you will see the regulator's first job is to get companies to start reporting. Once they have dipped their toes into the reporting pool, then comes the fun part, evaluating and pushing them to up their ESG game. But hey, you can't crack the whip without few years worth of data, right? So that's where India is headed in the next few years. We will start seeing some serious action taken against companies which aren't pulling their weight into their sustainability game. And and here is where things might get interesting. I at least foresee this becoming a norm, extending just beyond top 1,000 companies. Picture this: all the 6,000 companies in the stock market are jumping into the reporting bandwagon. They might even roll out an SME version, like we discussed before, for BRSR to get everyone into action. Now, I don't think SEBI is going to make it mandatory right off the bat, but we'll probably start with some voluntarily guidelines. But mark my words, companies that voluntarily step up will be the real trailblazers in this journey. And this is what I think, and this is where I think the big challenges are coming for India right now.
I think how you mentioned that advisory or voluntary reporting is also required, right? Because SEBI cannot just go ahead and ask each and every one of company listed to give the reporting, because it takes some initial amount of time needed for this smooth transition, let's say, for them to even understand the standards and the way they have to report and how well they need to declare themselves and to create a roadmap along this for the setting up their ESG trends and journeys. I think this would take a time, but yes, it is coming soon. Than like it's saying like it's coming ahead with a huge bullet train speed.
Correct.
Then for any company, they if they want to be different or if they want to stand out from the crowd, it's better for them to take the initiative of doing or considering the advisory reporting standards, or let's say even making their voluntary initiative towards these things would be a change maker for them, right?
Correct. Correct. And that's what we need to. And as we are working with many companies who are not even mandated, Pooja, they are
Mm-hmm.
reporting for two things: leave about the investor pressure or leave about other guidelines. They also want to start reporting before it gets mandated so that they're aware of what they need to do for the next year or the future years. So companies are coming voluntarily trying to do that. And like I said, people who come voluntarily are much ahead in the game, because when it becomes mandate, they already know what they need to do. So they are on the right track. So it's a mix. It's going to be a mix of these.
Yes, absolutely. And moving ahead, then, since we are at the end of the discussion and to understand, my
Right?
last question to you would be, Gokul, to help me understand, or if you can summarize the overall point of the ESG and how the trend has been setting and what is the need to any person who doesn't know the ABC of ESG or sustainability as such. How would you do that?
Uh, who does not know ABC?
Yes, who doesn't
Uh,
understand the jargon of sustainability field?
okay, if to a layman, if we're going to speak to a
Yes,
layman, what do
yeah,
we say?
yes.
First of all, to a layman, I'm going to just go very basic first. First, we need to speak about what is ESG, right? It stands for environmental, social, and governance. And this is a framework which has been used by businesses and investors to evaluate and measure sustainability and ethical practices. So, when we speak about environmental, it focuses on companies' impact on the environment, including its efforts to reduce carbon emissions, conserve natural resources, and minimize pollution. When we speak about social, it speaks about the dimension of how companies consider to interact with people, both within and outside the organization. This includes factors like employee relations, diversity, inclusion of community engagement, and human right practices. And then the G, which comes, which is governance, and this refers to the guide of the company's decision-making process and operations. Uh, it includes all aspects of both diversity, executive compensation, transparency, and ethical business practices. So, in I'm trying to see if I can put it more easier. ESG is more like a report card for companies, but instead of just looking at profits, it examines how well they treat the planet, that is environment, how well they
Mm-hmm.
treat the people, that's social,
Yes,
how well they run their businesses, that's governance. It's
yes.
all about asking questions like, are they being eco-friendly? Are they treating their employees fairly? Are they making ethical decisions? So ESG helps us to see if companies are doing good things beyond just making money. I hope this answers your question.
Very well. It was indeed a very, say how to say, like very brief and easy way of saying things. And those three questions at the last, I think those would be enough for anyone to understand what it means, right? So again, even though I said my last question, I would still like
Uh-huh.
to know, Gokul,
Sure.
since you have seen the markets from Middle East Asia and also Indian markets, right? How the companies are going up or catching up to the new trends. Do
Hmm.
you see any particular difference between these two regions
Uh,
in terms of implementation?
Pooja, I want you to once again ask this question. I'm trying to just make some sense of it.
Okay, yes, yes, no
Hmm.
problem. Uh, since you have seen the Middle East and as well as Indian markets, right? Given
Mm,
the set of portfolios you have with you,
mm, mm,
what
mm,
I'm trying to ask you here is, Gokul, now
mm,
that you have seen both the regions, right? And you are,
mm,
since you are also working with them,
mm.
my question would be, what is the main difference you see in both the regions when it comes to in terms of execution or implementation of ESG? What is that main difference? If you have noticed,
I understand. So, implementation and execution, right?
yes.
One of the main things which we can look at is address is whenever we're working with Middle East and India and Asia, the regulatory environment. First of all, first let's start with that. Middle East as has less stringent regulatory frameworks right now, at least compared to Asia and India when it comes to ESG implementation. So, however, we are seeing that Middle East is also now slowly introducing ESG regulations, but India is far more ahead of that. And then the investor sentiment. Asia and India are generally great investor interest for and pressure for companies to adopt ESG practices compared to Middle East is more. Because if foreign companies, European companies, American companies are trying to invest in India, these guys are going to ask for your ESG practices. So again, I still see India being ahead there. And then there is industry focus types of industries which are in each region can also influence ESG implementation. For example, Middle East might have greater focus on oil and gas, which brings specific environment challenges. But Asia and India might be more diversified in varying with different industries with ESG priorities. And what could also play a big part in the difference here is the government support and initiatives play massive roles here, right? In India and some parts of Asia, governments have been actively promoting sustainability through policies, incentives, and regulations. Now, Middle East is also increasing focus on sustainability, with government launching initiatives to promote renewable energy, environmental consumption, and sustainability development. While there might be differences in pace and approach of ESG implementation between Middle East, Asia, and India, but all these regions are increasingly recognizing the importance of sustainability and they are taking steps to integrate ESG principles into their businesses. But that's been the standard right now. You wouldn't see that much of a massive difference, like I said. But one thing can be totally different, which I've noticed, might be the corporate culture, right? The corporate culture attitudes towards sustainability vary because there is massive growing awareness and acceptance of ESG principles in India, with companies actually recognizing the importance of sustainability for long-term success. But in Middle East, they have more traditional business culture, and sustainability considerations are still emerging as a priority.
Okay, okay. Then that sums up the nuances of ESG trends and implementations in different regions which you have
Mhm.
seen and experienced. That's, great to see and have an perspective from fresh eyes to understand these situations. So now that we are at the end, I will just give a small nutshell of how the discussion was about. So initially we started with saying what is ESG and how does the landscape look like for Indian markets, and then we went ahead to understand the challenging part of it and what are the barriers, including SMEs and even for big giants for implementation part, and how well they need to navigate between the plans and switch strategies to stand out among the crowd of other industries. And then also discussion went ahead to understand the role of technology, AI, and how would that impact ESG trends in the coming year. And the last part ending conversation was to see the overview or the differences, slight differences which are available in terms of regulations or setup, corporate culture, how does it vary, and what are the differences between different regions in Middle East and as well as India and rest of the Asia as well. I think that this was a brief episode on the overview of ESG. I think you had a great time listening to us. Thank you so much for listening to us.
Before you conclude,
Yes,
I want to leave the audience with some questions, or maybe there's just maybe at least a thought on
yes.
my end.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Uh,
Please go ahead.
before because it's been the it's been fabulous for me right now. First of all, to be here, and I want to leave you guys with a powerful thought, at least before we leave. I'm going to rephrase this again and try this. Okay. ESG is just not a trend. It's not a regulatory requirement. It's a moral imperative and a strategic advantage. In the bustling landscape of Indian businesses, a journey towards sustainability isn't always easy, but it's undeniably rewarding. Whether you're a multinational corporation or a budding startup, embracing ESG isn't just about doing good. It is about securing your future in a world that demands accountability, transparency, and responsibility. So, people, let's just not talk about the change. Let's be the change makers, the trailblazers, and the champions of brighter, greener future. Because we at the Carbon Collective Company we are just not in the business of sustainability. We are in business of making real impact on the world, from partnering businesses to navigate the complexity of climate change, ecosystems, and community well-being, to work side by side with our clients to make their decarbonization journey as smooth and effective as possible. Now, we are committed in turning the tide on climate change and paving the way for the brighter future. Together, let's just all embrace the challenges ahead, dwell deep into our mission, and make history together. The time for action is now. And I'm glad you all call me. Pooja, thank you so much for joining me on this inspiring journey.
And thank you as well for sparing your precious time for us and setting time for this, and taking the initiative to actually help us understand and navigate the challenges, the barriers, and the trends which are coming up. And I think the person listening to this would love to have this conversation, and the thought which you left behind is so powerful, Gokul. I think I suggest you to do something. You can be, I can even say that we can make some episodes where you will be my co-host than being a guest, because you bring so much enthusiasm. You're so exuberant and energetic as a person and a speaker. I think you should I will definitely put this out there, that if at all we have another discussion as such, I would want you to be in this side of panel rather than being a guest side
I'd
panel.
be more than happy to do that for you, Pooja. We should.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. Let you come up with some ideas. Let's put together. I'm
Yes.
okay to brainstorm with you. It's because as I'm also growing in this industry, I'm keen to know what people are doing. So
Yes.
I think it'd be fabulous.
Okay. Then the three mantras for sustainable life are reduce, reuse, and recycle. Please
Correct.
share your thoughts, insights, and observations about the episode. And I'm also on Instagram, where you can follow me at getsetgreen.in for any updates or suggestions as such. Comment and share the episode if you liked it. And see ya until next episode. And don't forget the thought or the question which Gokul had sent you. Please ponder upon, and it needs your attention.